I've just bought this McLaren 600 LT and it was so cheap, I just couldn't say no.
A British YouTuber just paid real money for a smashed up McLaren he had never even seen in person, sitting on a trailer somewhere in Greece. And he gave himself exactly 7 days to bring it back from the dead. Let's start with what actually happened, because the headline alone sounds reckless. Matt Armstrong, the British car YouTuber, known for buying wrecked exotics and rebuilding them on camera, purchased a wrecked McLaren 600 LT out of Greece. He did not fly out to inspect it. He did not send an expert ahead of time. He bought it sight unseen, based on photos and a description, and then set himself a 7-day deadline to get the car running and driving again. That is the entire premise, and it is a wild one, because a 600 LT is not some cheap toy. Under the hood is a 3.8-liter twin turbo V8 producing around 592 horsepower on the UK standard, which works out to roughly 600 horsepower in practice, 620 newton meters of torque, and a 0 to 60 mile per hour time of 2.8 seconds. This is one of the most track-focused road cars McLaren has ever built. It is not forgiving, and it is not cheap to fix through official channels. So the first question anyone should ask is simple. Why would someone deliberately buy this kind of car blind in a foreign country and race a clock to repair it? The answer, as we will get into, has almost nothing to do with the car itself and everything to do with the system around it. Here is where it gets interesting, because the repair itself reads like a puzzle nobody expected to solve this fast. When the team got the car, it would not even start. After digging into the electrical system, they traced the fault to a blown pyro fuse, the kind of safety component that fires after a crash to cut power and prevent fires. The original McLaren part exists, but instead of ordering it through official channels, Armstrong's team found a compatible component from a Mercedes-Benz, and it cost them just $17. $17 on a car that costs over $200,000 new. That single detail is what made this story spread so fast online, because it captures the entire tension of modern supercar ownership in one number. But the fuse was only the beginning. The suspension was also damaged, and rather than sourcing a genuine 600 LT replacement part, the team adapted a lower control arm from a McLaren 720S. That swap was not a simple bolt-in job either, because the 720S uses hydraulic suspension, while the 600 LT relies on a mechanical anti-roll bar, so the part had to be physically modified to fit. On top of that, a cracked cast aluminum door hinge was repaired through welding rather than replacement, and the deployed seatbelts, which had fired their pretensioners during the crash, were sent off to specialists to be rebuilt rather than swapped for new units. Every single decision in this rebuild was about finding a cheaper, faster, unofficial path around the factory system. Now let's talk about the number that everyone is fixating on, because it deserves real scrutiny. The final bill for the entire project, buying the wreck, sourcing parts, labor, everything included, came out to roughly $141,000. On the surface, that sounds like a bargain for a working 600 LT, a car that new stickered well north of $200,000 and still commands strong money on the used market. But here's the catch that a lot of the viral coverage glosses over. Nobody has broken down how much of that $141,000 went toward the initial purchase of the wreck versus how much went to parts and labor. That distinction matters enormously. If the car itself cost $80,000 and repairs were $60,000, that is one story. If the wreck cost $30,000 and repairs were over $100,000, that is a completely different story about how expensive, unofficial supercar repair actually is, even when you are creatively sourcing parts. Treating $141,000 as simply the repair costs, the way a lot of headlines are framing it, is misleading. And it is exactly the kind of number that spreads fast on social media precisely because nobody stops to ask what it actually includes. There is also a bigger problem hiding underneath all of this, and it is one that should matter to anyone who has ever thought about buying a rebuilt salvage title supercar. There was no official insurance assessment of this car's condition before the rebuild began. That means nobody with formal training and liability on the line signed off on what was actually damaged and what was not. The team's own repair work is impressive from a mechanical creativity standpoint. Finding a Mercedes fuse, adapting a 720S control arm, welding a cracked hinge. But impressive improvisation is not the same thing as confirming a car meets McLaren's actual factory safety standards. A 600 LT is a car where suspension geometry and passive safety systems, like pretensioners, are not areas where a cosmetic repair mindset should apply. If the geometry is even slightly off after a crash like this, the car's handling at the limit, exactly the kind of driving this model was built for, could be compromised in ways that are invisible until something goes wrong at speed. This is not the first time Armstrong has walked this exact tightrope, and that pattern is worth talking about, because it changes how we should read this McLaren story. Earlier this year, Armstrong took on an even more extreme project, a wrecked Bugatti Chiron Per Sport that had been written off, given a salvage title, and sent to a Copart auction. That rebuild escalated into a genuine public dispute. When Armstrong suggested he might use 3D printed parts to complete the repair, Bugatti's own chief executive Matt Rimac publicly pushed back, disputing the accuracy of the repair costs being floated in the videos and stating that prices quoted were, in his words, inflated. Bugatti reportedly locked the car's VIN, which would have prevented any authorized dealership from supplying genuine parts for the rebuild, effectively forcing the entire project into the same unofficial, improvised territory the McLaren project now lives in. Rimac did offer an olive branch, inviting Armstrong to bring the car to Bugatti's own facility in Mulsheim for an inspection. Whether or not that ever happened, the message from a manufacturer as prestigious as Bugatti was clear. They did not want independent creators showing the world that million-dollar hypercars could be patched back together outside the factory system for a fraction of the official quote. So why does a manufacturer care so much about this kind of content? Follow the money. Companies like McLaren and Bugatti do not just sell cars, they sell an entire ecosystem of servicing, certified parts, and controlled resale value. If audiences of millions start believing that a $600,000 supercar can be brought back from a serious crash for well under a quarter of that price using a Mercedes fuse and a modified 720s control arm, it directly threatens the perception that these cars require expensive, exclusive, manufacturer-only care. That perception is worth an enormous amount of money to companies like McLaren, because it justifies everything from six-figure service bills to the strict control they keep over parts distribution. Every time Armstrong pulls off one of these rebuilds successfully and publishes the real numbers, he is not just making entertaining content, he is chipping away at that exclusivity narrative in front of an audience of car enthusiasts who talk to each other constantly online. The uncomfortable question this leaves us with is what happens to cars like this after the cameras stop rolling. Once a rebuild like this is finished and the video is published, the car does not disappear. It gets driven, sometimes sold, sometimes kept. If it changes hands, the next owner is trusting a repair history that was never independently verified by an insurer or by McLaren itself, no matter how competent the mechanical work looked on camera. That is the real tension buried inside every one of these viral rebuild stories. The content is genuinely entertaining, and the mechanical problem-solving is legitimately clever. But entertainment value and long-term safety verification are two completely different things, and right now, only one of them is being put on display for millions of viewers. Whether you see Matt Armstrong as a clever disruptor, exposing bloated supercar repair costs, or as someone taking real safety risks for viral numbers, one thing is certain. This will not be the last time a manufacturer watches one of these rebuilds and quietly wishes it had never happened. Let us know in the comments whether you would ever trust a car rebuilt this way, and subscribe for the next chapter in this story as it unfolds.